How does it feel to be at the end of this 4-year journey that you've been on?
It feels great. Just feel like I've been born again. I get a chance to restart my life and do some positive things.
Do you think that this verdict will change how the court system is working here in Memphis?
As corrupt as this system is, I doubt it.
I had already recorded this story, but I want to add a beginning point so you understand. I think there's a high likelihood that someone in the Memphis Police Department or some group purposely erected roadblocks in the Young Dolph investigation to finding the truth. They substituted in, or they played up Hernandez Govan and never questioned Big Jook, even though his name was mentioned from the very beginning by the person eventually who admitted to being one of the shooters and who was the star witness in all the cases. They never attempted, not to say that Jook and Gotti would have submitted, or Jook would have submitted to an investigation or to questioning, but they never attempted it. There appeared to be no. Jook's name was mentioned from the very start. Why did the Memphis Police Department not attempt to question him? Why was there seemingly no investigation against him? Police corruption is the source of a lot of, is the reason, like cities that are really bad, neighborhoods that are really bad, this stuff can't happen without some police being involved. So I'm not accusing anybody in particular, but the lead detective at the least did a very bad job. Why was Jook never questioned? He was alive for 2 years beforehand. So remember to like, share, and subscribe, and then we'll get into the story I just did. Hernandez Govan, the so-called mastermind of Young Dolph's untimely demise, not guilty in Memphis, as I predicted. I broke down the case in my last video. His lawyer did an excellent job pointing out, well, his lawyer just pointed out what was glaringly obviously the police did not pursue that. The Memphis police appeared to be protecting, well, they appeared to have been protecting Big Jook. I won't make the extension and say Gotti, because there's really nothing was said about Yo Gotti in the trial, really. It's about Jook. The Memphis police definitely protected Jook. I think the smoking gun, well, just for those of you that don't know what I'm talking about, prosecutor's office charged that Hernandez Govan connected the other guy, who's a rapper Straight Drop, and Cornelius Smith, the one who testified in this case, who was the main evidence, with Anthony Mims, a.k.a. Big Jook, a.k.a. Yo Gotti's big brother, to collect on a series of bounties on artists, on Young Dolph and any, really probably any of his artists, anyone signed to Paper Route, is it Paper Route Entertainment? No, Paper Route Empire, to PRE, Paper Route Empire. But the most powerful moment of the trial, Hernandez Govan's lawyer did an excellent job and pulled up the earliest statements, which are probably most likely to be true, and she didn't say anything about Hernandez Govan. She said it came from Jook. This trial did not do a very good job of proving that without Hernandez Govan, there is no murder of Dolph. Hernandez Govan certainly introduced Cornelius Smith to Jook, but the other shooter, Jook already knew. And from their initial meeting, all that was said was, this is little C. Jook ended up getting his number. Now, the little Cornelius Smith was so poor, I don't think him having a phone, like there was no way for him to stay in touch with Jook or anybody else. He probably would have a phone, wouldn't have a phone. The guy that killed your favorite independent, you know, we loved Young Dolph for his music and also his business acumen. He truly was independent. And he was killed by a guy that buys single cigarettes. Cornelia Smith testified to buying a single cigarette. His immediate reward after killing Young Dolph, and Dolph's brother shot him, another guy. This guy, Hernandez Govan, who just beat the case, gave him $40. Which again doesn't sound like the mastermind of a murder. Sounds like a pool of people that, you know, just had a bunch of low-life shit going on and trying to make Hernandez the mastermind. Now, he probably got away with committing a crime. I'm not gonna deny that, but first-degree murder is what they charge him with. It's the easiest charge to get found not guilty of because a jury takes it very, very seriously, right? In a lot of other cases, a jury may just look at you and decide, oh, you seem like a criminal, we don't like you. In a first-degree murder where you're going to get life, they really listen to the evidence. And the fact that the earliest statements were about Big Jook and not Hernandez Govan paying off, and that's who needed to be contacted, and that's who the hit came from, and that this guy Q, aka Quet, aka Hernandez Govan, his name comes in later after they've been questioned several times as if someone suggested they start mentioning him more. And when they went and got that retired detective, I guess he lives in Michigan now. There's a couple detectives that got questioned. There was the white sheriff who kind of hurt the prosecution case. There was the white Memphis cop who seemed like, I mean, he was kind of disturbing that he was even a police officer. He didn't seem very competent. And the black cop who had been the lead, who retired, he retired while handling the case, and the white detective testified that he didn't even know. He was like, yeah, I knew he theoretically retired, but I didn't know what day. How do you not know? Like, that's crazy. How do you not know your coworker in a murder case retired? Like, I've had regular jobs. Like, I worked in a university setting before. And, like, you know, if you're in a project and the coworker that's the lead on a project retires, like, there's a process. Like, I think they're protecting, they were, at the least, they were protecting Jook. Now, whether Jook and Yo Gotti had something going on in terms of planning going after Dolph, I don't think we'll ever know. If we do see a indictment against Yo Gotti for some sort of conspiracy, it's probably not going to come from this case. Remember that there was three. It took the day Dolph was killed. That was the fourth documented homicide attempt on him. 2 in Charlotte, 1 in Los Angeles. A person went to prison in North Carolina. That was a CMG. There was a CM. When did that start playing for? There was a CMG employee, and then also in LA, Yo Gotti was right there. They were at the Shoe Palace, and Yo Gotti's like security guard shoots Dolph in the parking lot. They're all right there. It's on Hollywood Boulevard. It's like totally crazy. CMG was after that guy, like gang war. Like they were so there could be some other weak link against Gotti. I think Gotti has brought his career to a standstill. Does Gotti put out music? And it's hard to separate the rumors. You see so much fake information on the internet. I mean, they're talking about black youngster is broke ties with them and is mad at Gotti. I don't know. Is anybody on here from Memphis? Like, what's really up with youngster and Gotti and CMG? This is quite a turn of events. I mean, Dolph has a lot of fans. Dolph, this is an embarrassment, I guess, for the city of Memphis. But they were trying to pin it on Hernandez, but he had something to do with it, and he probably got away with something there. But he wasn't the mastermind. He's a middle-aged, older guy living in the ghetto, selling retail amounts of fake pills out of his own house. There was no plan. These guys had to steal their own. They randomly got a stolen car one day from some other guy who was a killer and a carjacker and said, let's go. They were just riding around looking for anybody from Paper Route Entertainment, and there's Dolph's camouflage Lambo. There he is. And Dolph was not moving, as we say, militant. He should have had a second layer of security. Now, if you learn anything from Dolph's demise, for those of you that move around or someone might want to do something to you, you need to have concentric circles of layers of security, right? So none of your security has to be that perfect, but you have layers. So the problem is Dolph goes into the store with his brother, who was security, who had a gun and who did shoot the other two guys. He didn't kill them. But if your security is 6 feet away from you, by the time your security knows what's happening, obviously the people are very near to you. All he would have had to do was have one other person with him, really. Two would have been better, but even have one other person. Whenever you go somewhere, if you got a problem, let me tell you something how to move a security trick. If you just always leave somebody in one layer before they get to you. So there should be someone outside. So you have a doorman outside the door, like at a real drug spot or gambling or stash house. You have somebody out on the street. And then anyone that's approaching the house is going to get approached by them. They can call and alert the inside. And then there's a door. And then there's someone behind the door. And then you still got to get to where the target is. Whether the target is stealing something, killing somebody. Dolph should have always had a third person. So that's your simple. If you need to move around security, move around with at least two people. You don't have them both with you. You leave one in the outer layer. You leave one outside. You going in the store, they stay outside the store. You going in the house, they sit outside in the car on the block. They patrol or they watch the block, and someone else is inside with you. But Hernandez Govan, that was a weak case. It really was. I mean, it all boiled down to the fact that he just introduced them guys, but they didn't talk to Hernandez Govan for 2 weeks leading up to the murder. And he's not the first person they called when it was done. Straight drop, the other shooter was FaceTiming Big Jook. Straight drop got paid. He waved the money around in a music video. This is great. This is not now general America or black people in the suburbs. You're getting to see how poorly run institutions are in the bad areas of the bad cities, and this is why crime is high. It's not because people are the same everywhere. People in a poor neighborhood with a lot of murders are no worse than anybody anywhere else. It's just, you can get away with a lot more. The ghetto is the devil's playground. Memphis is the devil's playground. Is Yo Gotti the devil? Is the question that we're all interested in at this point. What do you think? Now, I'm very interested in who the hell killed Big Jook. Like, there's been no leads at all in that case. This Young Dolph hit, they had people in custody within a couple days because these guys are clowns. And if it wasn't for the guy who testified, the guy who was getting paid in pills, counterfeit X and oxys, the guy who buys loose cigarettes with the girlfriend with the dollar store outfit in court, he was the one who killed Dolph. The other guy barely, if it was up to him, it wouldn't have happened. I think he did get out and shoot, but and the police, like, you're dependent on the Memphis Police Department to get you some justice. You ain't gonna get it. This was a total incompetence. That black officer that was the lead detective, did you see his body language? He was just on the stand like, psh. Hernandez Govan's lawyer asked that guy. The white cop didn't even seem like a police officer. He was so incompetent. The black cop was like, he said, so the first person they told you paid for it or that was behind it was Big Jook. And you never interviewed him. He said, we didn't get to it. He said it had been 2 years. What do you mean you didn't get to it? They had their fall guys. They knew straight drop wasn't gonna tell. I mean, there are some people that they won't tell, and if you're living a certain type of way, when you go to jail, it's not that much different. And if you stay high, so if straight drop, they keeping some good heroin for straight drop to snort on, or some of them fentanyl pills. You don't care. He laying in a cell. He good for now. He may wake up from his stupor one day, but and if you think you can't stay high on hard drugs in jail, stay tuned for my upcoming documentary, Beyond Street Dreams. It's about a lot of things, but the main plot line about the Brown family, part 2 of Motown Mafia. One of the girlfriends of the boss man, the father, Courtney Brown Sr., got caught getting like 15 keys of pure H from the Pakistani plug. They're picking it up in San Francisco. She had to do like 8 years in the feds. She stayed 360 every day of every year. She had some H to snort. They were sending it to her. So if you got people on the outs that are criminal, that are with money, the prison systems now are flooded with drugs. You have a guard, you pay a guard to bring it in. So he's probably in there high. And he's out of it. He doesn't care at this point. He may wake up and want to give some more info. But I personally think it's highly likely Big Jook may have done this on his own. I showed the video clip in the last video from the end of the Baller Alert Young Dolph video, where he has a guy that looks like Big Jook dressed up in a CMF t-shirt, and and he fronts him some work, and he said, my brother ain't been fucking with me. Now I call him your big sister. Used to be your brother, now I call him your big sister. Jook was called a bitch in public. So I think the Gotti and Jook and them have a reputation. They were like the lowlifes of the street game, maybe the runoff people. Mr. Ian said how come Yo Gotti and Big Jook never met Craig Petty's and he named all these other guys. Craig Petty's, if you don't know, possibly bigger than Big Meech out of Memphis. Direct plug with La Barbie, Beltran Levi, Sinaloa, C.A. Artel. Craig Petty's left Memphis and hid out in Mexico for several years. The Mexicans hit him in Mexico. He was sending hits and bricks from Mexico to Memphis. So Memphis is a hub of distribution and of use, and a lot of action happens there. So something more is to this case, because Govan has been found not to be the mastermind. But who the hell killed Big Jook? Just like I predicted his not guilty verdict, I'm going to predict you this. If there ever is any charges, like if there ever is any type of RICO or some federal thing with Gotti and CMG, and I'm not necessarily predicting there will be, because at this point, it may be all the loose ends might be tied up. If there is, there's going to be some Memphis law enforcement, because it sure seems like in the beginning, when Cornelius and his girlfriend were making statements, they were saying Big Jook's name, and that got substituted, and this Quet, Hernandez Govan, Q, got inserted in between. And the fact that Jook got killed just made it kind of weird. The person they were protecting now was dead, but the case had to go on. And maybe that's why they didn't, it was like that black detective didn't even care. He had been the lead detective on the Dolph murder case, and he was sitting on that stand like he really didn't care that the mastermind, so-called, of the hit, Hernandez Govan, was on trial. He has go back and watch my last video, or we can break his down in another video, but we need to investigate that lead. I'm glad I talked myself into this. We're going to look into the lead detective, because he sure did a poor job, and he did not seem very emotionally invested on the stand. Hernandez Govan not guilty. Justice for Dolph has been partially served. To a straight drop, Justin Johnson doing life. Cornelius Smith now is testifying in 2 different trials. He has yet to plead guilty. The fact that Hernandez was found not guilty, his lawyer, when it comes to him telling and them giving him a reward, they shouldn't really hold that against him. I'm sure promises were made off the record. He's going to probably do his time out of state. He'll probably do 10 or 12 years. So justice for Dolph has not yet been served all the way. Will it ever? And those of you from Memphis, what's the reality of the situation with Black Youngster? Please let me know. Al Prophet American Dope.
What would be your words of advice?
Leave Memphis.